Hello again, friends. Conrad Zimmerman here once more. I'm going to answer some more questions from my Ask FM page. So I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time. Let's just dive into them. We got another 6 here that we're doing. Opinion of Kickstarter, any projects you've backed. My opinion of Kickstarter is that it's a bit of a minefield. I've sort of been reticent to get too engaged in it, and I try not to make a big deal out of projects until the time at which they're funded and actually expected to be real products, because a lot of times the Kickstarter projects that get posted, they're from unknown quantities, people that I'm just not familiar with their work or the reliability of my money that I'd be spending ending up in the product that I requested. So it has to be something that I really, really believe in before I'll invest in it, because I look at Kickstarter, I know it's turned into this sort of pre-order system for some companies, but from my point of view, it's really about the opportunity to invest in something and get something that you believe in to help be in the world. So I've only backed a couple of Kickstarters myself. I backed the Shadowrun Returns Kickstarter from Harebrained Schemes. And of course that game's already come out. The stretch goal DLC is due out, I believe it's January. And I'm very pleased with the way that turned out. I contributed a not small amount of money to sort of fund that development, and it was going to be a sure thing, and they really blew out the amount of money that they needed on that, and so there's still a lot more stuff to come in terms of the stretch goals, but I'm very pleased with the result on the whole. It was what I wanted, in that it is a very moddable system. It resembles the pen and paper Shadowrun in probably the best way since the Sega Genesis version, and so I'm really quite pleased with that. I also backed the Awesome Knots Starstorm expansion, which should be coming along fairly soon, and I've been playing around in the beta with the new character that was added, and I'm happy with that. But I mean, again, that's a company that makes a game that I already play pretty much daily, and I know that they're capable of delivering on what they announce. So I didn't have any problems with that. But I mean, unless I really know the people involved and I'm familiar with their past work, it's not something I can get behind, generally speaking. So it's fine. I think it's great that it exists. I think it's wonderful that developers and really anybody has access to a way to promote their ideas and try to bring them into the world. I'm just not really that interested in participating myself. So there you go. Next question. What game or series have you always tried to get into but couldn't? Lost Planet. The Capcom Ice World thing, that idea was really cool to me, that there's this alien frozen planet and that, you know, they're basically killing the monsters to get heat, and they're mining the heat from the planet. Kind of fascinating to me. And the mechanics of, you know, not freezing to death always sounded appealing. And then the gameplay just never struck a chord, and I've never been able to get more than an hour or two into any of the Lost Planet games. So as much as I love the concept, the execution just never struck a chord, never made me want to play more. So yeah, definitely one that I would have liked to have enjoyed, but couldn't. Next question. Are achievements, trophies, something you care about? I wouldn't say I care about them. I'm not interested in earning them for myself, generally speaking. I don't have a need to, you know, brag about something I've accomplished by and large. Although I do that from time to time if it's something that I, you know, feel was a good challenge. I like that they exist. I don't think that it's such a bad thing that people have this additional investment or attachment to the games, and I think that they can be used in really effective ways. I love it when a game sort of has a list of achievements in there and suggests things that I might not have ever tried to do, and then, you know, could get to see the game from a whole new angle or get, you know, an additional experience out of it. And I even occasionally like it when they, you know, try to like tie-in jokes and things like that, and it can be a nice little fun thing. Although, generally speaking, I have the alerts turned off for my achievements because I just don't want to be bothered by something intrusive popping up in the middle of my game. So I think they're fine. I think there are some benefits. I don't really care to go out of my way to earn them, generally speaking, unless it's some game that I just truly, truly love. And there are a couple of them out there that I was like, you know what, I feel like doing everything that this game has to offer. And that's just another checklist thing. But generally speaking, checklist things aren't that of much interest to me. This is an interesting question. This just says, PC Master Race? I'm not sure entirely if this is asking if I am a member of the PC Master Race, or if they're asking what I think about the PC Master Race. So we'll just to sort of try and answer every possibility. The PC Master Race idea being that, well, PC is the only way to go, and, well, why would you ever do anything else in terms of gaming, because it offers far more. I'm not that way. I loved consoles, and I loved them so much, and they were great for me when they didn't resemble PCs so much. That was really the breaking point for me. I PC gamed a ton until about 2000. 1999, 2000, I sort of stopped doing PC gaming and almost exclusively played consoles. And part of that was because I, didn't have a machine that I was regularly upgrading, and so I wasn't keeping up with the Joneses in terms of being able to play PC games. But it was also because a lot of the PC games that were coming out during that period of time were things that I weren't really interested in. Multiplayer was becoming all the rage, and I'm not interested in competitive multiplayer. So every game had a deathmatch mode, and that just seemed to be where all of it was headed. Plus, on top of that, 3D was something that I was not that into. I was still really into 2D games. It wasn't a terrible thing. Obviously, 3D had been around for years in PC gaming, with Quake and so forth up to that point. So it wasn't like I was fleeing for that purpose, but there was another reason I liked consoles, that it offered more of the games that I actually wanted to play, and there wasn't a threat of connectivity being required. You couldn't patch the games on your PlayStation 1 or even your PlayStation 2 later. And so waiting for consoles to catch up to PCs in terms of internet connectivity and so forth sort of held them back in a way that I appreciated, because what was happening in PC games in the pre-Steam arena, and downloading patches was awkward, and you could already see the writing on the wall that games were being released that were not functionally correct, that didn't work the way they were supposed to, and then they would issue a patch, and you'd have to download the patch on a dial-up internet connection, or you'd have to get it off of a disc that was published with a magazine or some crap like that. And it was kind of a pain in the ass. And now that aspect of it has changed, at least, with the advent of Steam becoming sort of pretty much the de facto digital distribution method of choice for games. That was, it's way easier and it works better. And so I don't mind that so much. And I've had to come to terms with the fact that multiplayer is not going anywhere, and all the consoles have it now. So now all the inconveniences or things I didn't like about PCs are now on consoles. Whereas the PC market has developed in some new and interesting ways. There's all sorts of great independent titles that are only available on PC. So yes, I do find that I spend more time playing on my PC than anything else, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, people who play console games are somehow inferior, because it's simply not true. There are lots of great console experiences. I'm going to continue to buy consoles because there are games and experiences that I can only get on them, and I want to have access to that wide range. So, no, it's what I'm doing now is playing PC more than ever. But it's not my way of life, and it's certainly not something that I would say is the only or best way to go. The next question, favorite controller from any console? Right now, I think I have to say that the Xbox 360 controller is probably the best controller ever made in terms of being compatible, comfortable to hold. I can play my PC games with it, and I love that because it just freaking works. And the Xbox 360, obviously, it's a fine controller, and I really like it. It's not my all-time favorite, though, which is this one here. This is the Power Clutch SG. It's a Sega Genesis controller, and it's sort of like, this is from a company called ASCIIware, and they, it's kind of like an NES Advantage for the Genesis. It has a slow-mo switch, and it's got turbo, but the turbo is a dial that clicks on and then has an increasing rate that it goes at. So you can control exactly how fast you wanted your turbo to work, and I loved that. I thought that was so cool. Plus, it's got LED lights for each of the buttons so you can verify that it's pressed. And the other great thing about it is that it uses the same 9-pin connection as the Commodore 64 did on the Sega Genesis. So it's also compatible with that, and I love this controller. It's got a really solid construction. It's all metal and thick plastic, and it feels really good and heavy and dense. It's got nice little arcade, feet things so you can put it on a surface and it holds put. Great, great controller. In fact, I like it so much that I bought a second one from the used game store that I worked in many years ago because it just came in and I was like, I gotta have another one of these just in case my first one breaks or I want to do a 2-player thing. So great controller. Really love that one. One more question. Read any interesting books lately? I don't know. That depends on what you deem as interesting. I thought the Henry Bushkin book on biography of Johnny Carson, sort of covering the years during which Bushkin worked for him as his lawyer. It was fascinating because Carson was a pretty reclusive individual, and he was absolutely just an icon of American entertainment. And to hear, an account of what the man was like from someone who would have worked so intimately with him was eye-opening. And, it's not all positive. So I didn't feel like it was a slam piece in any way. He was really just very complimentary of a lot of aspects of Carson. But, there were some other ways in which he just seemed to be a right bastard. And really interesting book, a fun read. And I enjoyed that a lot. And right now I'm reading Zealot. I wish I could remember the name of the author. But it's an attempt to try and depict a view of Jesus of Nazareth from a biblical, not the biblical sense, but the historical Jesus, of which there's very little account. So it sort of looks at the politics of the time in Palestine and in Jerusalem around the period of Christ, and really interesting. I'm just getting into it, but it looks like it's going to be a fascinating read. So if you have questions that you would like to ask me, feel free to do so. You can do them in the comments of this or at the lovely Ask FM page that I've got set up. And then you can ask anonymously, and I will try to answer more questions. See you next week with this, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want more gameplay, more me talking, more mustache. Thanks a lot. See you later.